They talked for 24 hours and it still failed. Let's see what is going on.
Good morning, everybody. And let me say a couple of notes of appreciation. First of all, to the Prime Minister of Pakistan and to Field Marshal Munir, who were both incredible hosts. And whatever shortcomings in the negotiation, it wasn't because of the Pakistanis, who did an amazing job and really tried to help us and the Iranians bridge the gap and get to a deal. We have been at it now for 21 hours, and we've had a number of substantive discussions with the Iranians. That's the good news. The bad news is that we have not reached an agreement, and I think that's bad news for Iran much more than it's bad news for the United States of America. So we go back to the United States having not come to an agreement. We've made very clear what our red lines are, what things we're willing to accommodate them on, and what things we're not willing to accommodate them on. And we've made that as clear as we possibly could, and they have chosen not to accept our terms. Questions?
Sir, Nick Robertson from CNN. Precisely what have they rejected here? Can you help us understand it a little bit?
Well, I won't go into all the details because I don't want to negotiate in public after we've negotiated for 21 hours in private. But the simple fact is that we need to see an affirmative commitment that they will not seek a nuclear weapon, and they will not seek the tools that would enable them to quickly achieve a nuclear weapon. That is the core goal of the President of the United States, and that's what we've tried to achieve through these negotiations. Again, their nuclear program, such as it is, the enrichment...
After 21 hours of high-stakes negotiations in Islamabad, the United States and Iran have walked away without a deal, and the implications are far from minor. According to officials, the talks were substantive, intense, and direct. But despite the marathon session, the two sides failed to reach a formal agreement on one of the most sensitive issues in global security, Iran's nuclear program. At the center of the negotiations was a clear U.S. objective: securing a long-term commitment from Iran to abandon any pathway to nuclear weapons development. This reportedly included not just weapons themselves, but the tools and infrastructure required to produce them. For Washington, this is a red line, but for Tehran, the issue is far more complex, tied to sovereignty, deterrence, and regional power balance. And that's where the talks began to stall. While exact details remain undisclosed, multiple sticking points emerged, among them the future of the Strait of Hormuz, one of the world's most critical oil transit choke points, and broader disagreements over regional influence. There were also reported tensions over economic concessions, particularly the question of unfreezing Iranian assets, a move that could have reshaped the economic dimension of the deal. But in the end, neither side was willing to give enough ground. U.S. Vice President J.D. Vance confirmed that he remained in constant communication with President Donald Trump throughout the negotiations, and Trump's stance appears clear. The United States does not necessarily need a deal to move forward strategically. That statement alone carries weight because it suggests Washington may already be preparing for alternative paths, diplomatic, economic, or potentially military. At the same time, the fact that both sides remained engaged for 21 hours face-to-face signals something equally important. Neither side has fully closed the door. Pakistan's role as mediator has been described as historic, successfully bringing both parties to the table under one roof. But mediation alone cannot bridge deep strategic divides. So where does this leave the region? For now, tensions remain contained but unresolved, and in geopolitics, unresolved tensions don't disappear, they evolve. The failure to reach an agreement does not mean immediate escalation, but it does increase uncertainty, especially in a region where miscalculations can have global consequences. From oil markets to military positioning, the ripple effects are already being watched closely. The Strait of Hormuz remains a pressure point. Iran's nuclear posture remains under scrutiny, and U.S. strategic patience may not last forever. So the real question is no longer just about diplomacy. It's about what happens next. Will talks resume? Will pressure increase? Or are we entering a new phase of strategic confrontation? This is War Lens News, your frontline source for global military and geopolitical analysis. Subscribe now and stay ahead of the story. Lens Wars News.